Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Hi there, a very warm welcome to the Racing Post Weekend Postcast. The team this week is Bruce Millington, Keith Melrose, David Jennings and Paddy Powers. Frank the Tank Hickey. The ITV4 action comes this week from Kempton and Warwick. There's some good stuff going on elsewhere, including two really good races in Punchestown on Sunday. We'll be having a look at those. We'll have all the best bets, whether they're on TV or not, plus the naps. Before that, though, very, very quick Q&A, and I mean very quick. I just want your answers. I'm not too fussed about reasoning. How many days should the Cheltenham Festival last? Keith Melrose.
4.
Okay. David Jennings?
Probably 4, but I would have nothing against it going 5.
Frank?
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
Who wins the Champion Hurdle, Keith?
I've seen nothing since to suggest that Call Me Lord each way isn't maybe the best of the bets. You can handle it when they go quick, like in December. You can handle 2.5 miles, like you did at Ascot. And you can handle Cheltenham now, we know, so 16s each way.
DJ, Champion Hurdle winner is?
Charger.
Who?
Charger.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, okay. And Frank?
Salday or Sharjah, depending on the ground. If it was good, I'd be keen on Sharjah. If it was a bit of ease, Salday. I'd be very much against Epatante.
Righty-ho. And who will win the Gold Cup, Keith?
Well, I've taken 2 against a few, lost in translation and presenting Percy. I think you get about 6s coupled, 5s coupled.
DJ?
Bandazobo.
Bandazobo. Blimey. Frank?
Album Photo will win it again.
Album Photo wins again. And finally, how many sugars do you have in your tea? Keith?
None.
DJ?
None.
Frank?
None.
Really? See, we had a massive argument about it yesterday. I reckon that 40% of people don't have sugar, but the way it's going, it's...
I don't often care what other people think, so I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know to guess.
Fair enough. Okay. Right, let's get on with the ITV4 action on Saturday. It starts at Warwick with the 150, which is the McCoy Contractors 2020 Construction News Awards finalist. Bloody hell. Hampton Novices Chase, over 3 miles. Frank, how do Paddy Power bet on this?
Yeah, at the moment, highest on is 2-1. Ardlethan is 5-2, 2 for goal, 4-1. Roll again, 9-2. Hold the note, 9-1, along with Watmore, and Zara Hope is 40-1.
David Jennings, away you go. Make it a winner.
I like Ardlethan here, Bruce. I just think that second to Sam Spinner is probably just about the best piece of form in the race. I just thought last time the race with Danny Whizbang and Reserve Tank was a funny sort of a race to watch. They kind of different horses took each other on at different times, and I just don't think it was Ardlethan's true running. To me, if he repeats his Sam Spinner performance at Wetherby, it'll probably be good enough. It's not a great renewal of the race. The one that's probably overpriced is Hold the Note, who I thought was jumping really well before it was badly hampered by Roll Again at Kempton. That's probably the overpriced one, but the most likely winner, Ardlethan.
Okay, Frank, who's your selection going to be?
Yeah, it wasn't the race I was overly in love with, but I had to have a better probably chance 2 for gold. He's 2 from 2 over fences, 6 from 9 career total, so he's pretty decent. His first start over fences at Carlisle was a handicap over 2.5 miles of a mark of 132. He was quite a good winner. That form's worked out well. The second and third have both won since. Fourth was second since, and Dominator fell, and he's won twice since. That form's quite good. He was given an £8 rise for that. Probably looking at the way the race has worked out, that's probably lenient enough, and there's everything to suggest he could be like running in a handicap of 145 or so. Now, if he could run to that sort of mark here, he'd probably be difficult enough to beat if he could run to the high 140s. He won the last time at, I can't remember where it was. It was Kelso, that was it. He jumped a little bit to the right. He needs to iron that out, but he has won left-handed a couple of times before, so I wouldn't be overly worried with that. And he just looks a dour stare. If he can get out in front into a little bit of a rhythm, I think he might be difficult enough to pass.
Okay, have you got any strong ones for us today, by the way, Frank?
Nothing massively strong, but a couple of ones I'm kind of keen on.
Okay, we look forward to those. Keith?
This race earned its Grade 2 status. I'm not sure this is the best renewal. If 2 for gold jumps like he did at Kelso, you'll have to run 4 miles. Roll Again takes too many chances of this jumping for Warwick for me on what I've seen so far. Ardlethan this is weak Grade 2, so he might be up to it, but I'm not backing him at that price. Watmore might not be good enough, and Zara Hope almost certainly isn't. So I'm left with Highest Sun and Hold the Note. Now, I love Highest Sun. I think he is a smashing horse, but I think he's the plate winner. I think he wants 2.5 miles and a decent gallop. He's got a mixed pedigree, not entirely bred for jumps. He was done for stamina by Pym in what wasn't the strongest run race at Ascot when he was second in a handicap there. And then, there's a match race that he won at Plumpton since. I still need proving that he gets 3 miles, and, this race generally tends to take quite a bit of getting. So I'm left thinking I'm going to back Holding Up because, he gives the impression that connections think he should have won more races than he has up to now. He went off favourite at Ludlow for a race that turned out to be quite a really good everyday novice, and he was last off the bridle in that race, probably not fit as it turned out. And then at Kempton, as DJ alluded to there, he was still going really well, long way out, but in jump did fine up to that point when Roll Again just wiped him out. So you can just put a line through that, and I think that he, 9-1-ish is probably the value in the race.
Excellent. We're off and running. It's the 2:25 next. It's the Ballymore Leamington Novices Hurdle. Over 2 miles and 5, a race that often throws up some Cheltenham clues. We'll wait and see whether it does this year. But before we find out who the lads think are going to win, Frank, give us a show.
Shannon Blue is 5-2, Decor Irlandais and Harry Senior 7-2, Keen On and Mossy Fen 11-2, and What's Up With You is 7-1.
And you're serving, Frank.
Yeah, it's a very tricky race, and I'd nearly be willing to chance the outsider of the field. What's Up With You? He was 33-1 on debut at Ascot in what looked a nice enough little novice hurdle. He won very impressive. He travelled well, quickened well, ran away from them. The fourth, It Sure Is, kind of ties in with Shan Blue in that they both ran at Newbury. Shan Blue fell a few hurdles out when looking like he was going to play a big part. It Sure Is finished second that day behind Severano. So just I know It Sure Is was a bit keen at Ascot and probably didn't run his race, but on that form, I'd just be willing to chance What's Up With You, particularly with the Ben Pauling yard getting back into form. It just wasn't a race I was overly keen on, to be honest.
Righto. The outsider in the field is 6. That's not really a saying, is it? It's more the outsider in the field of 3. But anyway, Frank's gone for the outsider in What's Up With You. What are you going to go for, Keith?
Decor Irlandais. I thought that the Catterick run against Mercy and Prince, who also runs on Saturday, was really eye-taking. It was his first one since August. He drifted really massively. Get the impression that was a run to get him back in and sharp for this race. But he's gone and beaten Mercy and Prince on the bridle, hard held. Now Mercy and Prince is a 1:45 chaser. He didn't run anything like that. But what I did like about the best bit of handicapping advice I ever got was rate a race as low as you can. And I looked at that Catterick race, and nothing else bar those two ran to more than about 105. So you can well say that race has been rated as low as they could manage to do. And on that form, Decor Irlandais is £12 clear in this still. So I think you should maybe take heed of that. And the fact that he travelled so well at Catterick as well means that Warwick will hold no fears. It is a really sharp track over hurdles sometimes, Warwick. And yeah, so he's not got a problem with travelling. £12 clear on ratings. I think he should be favourite, really.
Just elaborate, will you, on that, Max, and rate them as low as you can. So the theory being that you just try and take the view that this is the weakest possible race it can be. Are you then saying that sometimes, even if they've still got a relatively high rating to the rest of them, that there can only be upside in that horse roughly?
I bet, yeah. Too often, a lot of handicappers, and I've never done it myself, but a lot of people often will take a rating that maybe suggests, is a third really that good? Or whereas the position you should start from is the idea that, give the lowest plausible rating possible in that race, and then think why you should go up, rather than start with a rating you think on the winner and work downwards. Because the winner might be impressive, but what you've got to ask in a race is, did the fourth run its race really? Did the third run its race really? Or anything like it. Is the fourth worth that much, the third worth that much? Whereas if you get carried away with winners, you will rate races high because winners tend to be more impressive. So that was a really good maxim that I got from a guy who I used to know who handicapped horses, and I think it's one I stand by. I don't see it as often as I'd like, but I did in this race at Catterick, and I thought it was telling that as a result, Decor Irlandais still came out very well.
Brilliant, interesting stuff. DJ, who's your selection going to be?
Yeah, I can see where Keith is coming from with Decor Irlandais. To put the performance into perspective, this horse won hard on the bridle and traded at 47-1 on the exchanges at Catterick. It was one of the most bizarre performances I've seen in any race this year. It was remarkable, and I think if he wasn't trained in Sligo by Noel Kelly and wasn't ridden by Noel McFarlane, he'd certainly be favoured here. He's rated 145. He's £10 clear on official ratings, and as Keith said, using his theory, he is the horse to beat. But I just think, potential-wise, I think Mossy Fen is the one that I like here. Like, you have to remember, Sam Twiston-Davis rode Mossy Fen instead of Redford Road at Cheltenham last time, and it was Nigel that forced him to ride Mossy Fen because he thought he was the better of the two horses. Redford Road ended up winning the race. And just when I watched the race back again, like, he got cut off on the home turn, Mossy Fen. Looked like he was just going to be eased and finish 6th or 7th. He actually stayed on again really well up the hill. I thought he was a little bit unlucky not to finish much closer that day. And potential-wise, I think he has the potential to be the best horse in the race. I think 11-2 with Paddy Power is very fair.
OK, the 3 o'clock at Warwick is the McCoy Contractors Civil Engineering Classic Handicap Chase. It's over 3 miles and 5 furlongs. 14 runners go to post, and I think there's some good news for each way punters here, Frank.
Yeah, we're actually 5 places, which is very generous. The Conditional and Kimberley Candy had the market of 4-1. The Broil, Bobo Mac and Petite Power are 7-1. Impulsive Star Mystery are both 10-1. Cross Park and Darlac 12-1, and we're 14-1 bar.
So go to paddypower.com or the Racing Post app to get 5 places on a 14-runner handicap. Keith, the only trouble is it's still quite difficult to get one in the 5, isn't it? It's a real head scratcher, this.
That it is. I'm glad you said that, because had worries that I was going to speak and then DJ would come roaring over the top telling me he's got a certainty. He'd be lying, I think. It's bloody difficult. I've got it down to 6, if that's any help. But when you've got, what you do with a race like this is, if you find an uncompetitive race, you think, I've got a bet in this. You see a competitive race, you say, I'll let that one go. And then you get to these really, really competitive races and you end up thinking, well, I've got to back one of these. There's so many in the race that you actually fancy that you think, I've got to back one. And the best play in those cases is often to just, because a horse could run as well as it possibly can and finish 3rd. You're as well taking the solid one each way, and you can add your one bet in the race. And that's why I'll be on Cross Park. He's been in the frame in this the last 2 years. I don't think he stayed the first year, which suggests that he was still coming into himself a little bit, because after finishing 3rd last year, on his next 2 starts, he won the Eider and he was 2nd in the Scottish National. That means he's £9 higher than last year, so I doubt he's the best handicapped horse in the race. But it's not always about that in these big field handicaps, especially if you're playing with 5 places. It's about getting a horse that's going to run its race and cope with the conditions. And with Cross Park, the other thing is to think that his 2 runs this year, you could easily take the view from how he's shaped that he's building up to something, and what better than the race he's been in the frame in the last 2 years. So I think Cross Park each way at a bit of a price is if I was having only one bet in the race, is the one to go for.
Excellent. So Keith, they're putting a very good case for the solid option. Do you remember, DJ, when G-Rod absolutely destroyed the solid option in such legendary fashion and then ended up tipping it? But Keith very cogently there says that Cross Park at 12-1 with 5 places is the solid choice. Do you have a certainty here, DJ?
No, I don't. Obviously not. As Keith said, I'd only be lying. Now, I'm quite good at lying, but I'd only be lying if I thought there was a certainty in this race. And it's wide open. I do really like one in it, though. And the one I really like is Captain Chaos for Dan and Harry Skelton. Now, you hear of horses not taking the courses, right? But this is the most extreme case of a horse hating a course that I've ever seen. Captain Chaos and Chepstow. He's run 4 times at Chepstow, so he's pulled up in the Welsh National last time, okay? The time before, he was finished 6th of 6, beating 28 lengths on his first run there. Then he was 12th of 12, beating 43 lengths. And then he was 6th of 7, bet even further. So he's only actually beaten 1 horse home in all his times going to Chepstow. So he absolutely hates the place. So what you need to do with Captain Chaos is just forget about all that Chepstow form and just forget that he ever turned up there and use the rest of his form. He was 6th in the Kimmuir of 135. Close up 6, was bang there to 2nd last. He's £1 lower now. I think a track like Warwick really suits Captain Chaos, because if you go through where he's won at places like Wetherby, he's won at Uttoxeter, he's won at Newcastle. I just think he hates Chepstow, and I think this track will play to his strengths. He's only 9, and I still think there's more improvement to come. He's rated 134 at the moment. I think when he does get his terms and conditions, he's about a 140 horse. And that brings him right into this. I think he'll run a cracker, Captain Chaos.
What makes Chepstow so different to the other anti-clockwise courses that you mentioned there? Is it just the undulations?
I think from watching his races back, I think that kind of the last fence in the back straight to the first fence in the home straight is about a mile. And I think he hates that big uphill climb to the turn into the home straight. Now, I could be wrong. It's a funny sort of track, Chepstow. It's one of the tracks, there's a couple of them, Chepstow and Hexham. I just completely forgive horses if they don't take to it. And I could be wrong. Maybe he's just not that good, but I just think he hates the place.
Yeah, I mean, Keith, the whole point with Warwick is it's not so much that the fences are relatively stiff, is it? It's just there is a lot of them.
Yeah, it's a bit like Sandown in that regard. The fences there aren't the stiffest themselves. It's the fact that there's so many, 7 down that back straight, rat-a-tat-tat, the railways. With Warwick, you know, my sort of instinct is always to resist cliches that you hear from people talking about racing, and they talk about rhythm, and I would want to hate it, but how many horses do you see at Warwick who miss the first down that run of 5 and they miss them all? There is definitely something in that one because the fences come so close together. You also see it at the last 2 down the back at Plumpton. They come very, very close together after they're coming down the hill. So, you know, anywhere where fences come close together, the sense of rhythm does really come into it.
Absolutely. Frank's been waiting patiently. Hopefully had time to make himself a little cuppa. What's your selection here, Frank?
Yeah, it's a tricky race. Like Kimberley Candy probably was very much an eye catcher in the Beacher, staying on strongly. What slightly worrying me was he ran really well in his reappearance last year, and the second start in the Tommy Whittle, then he was very disappointing. And the Conditional probably travelled better than most in the Ladbroke. And I didn't think, like, he stayed on fine, but I'm not sure he was crying out for the step up and trip. And I'm just going to go back to last year's winner, Impulsive Star. Now he's got 3 P's next to his name, pulled up in the 4-miler at Cheltenham, the Scottish National, and on his reappearance at Cheltenham. His blinkers applied. He's only £4 higher than last year. I thought he was a relatively impressive winner last year. And this race doesn't look much stronger, if at all.
Right, doesn't get a lot easier in our final race from Warwick, the 3:35, which is the Potence Network Handicap Hurdle. 3 mile, 1 furlong. And again, as with our previous affair, it's 4-1 the field, Frank.
Yeah, Tedham 1 for the team were 4-1. Stony Mountain 8-1 along with Doc Penfro. Lisnagar Oscar 9-1, Igor 10-1, and we're 11's bar.
We've got 4 places here for each way punters. And DJ, away you go. Who wins?
I'm going to chance Lisnagar Oscar. I find these races so tricky because it's far more important to finish in the top 6 than it is to win the race, if that makes sense. So we saw it in Ireland, obviously, with the Storyteller sneaking into 6th in the Potence qualifier at Leopardstown over Christmas. And that is winning the race. So it's a little bit tricky. The system is flawed. So you have to try and find the horses who this is the kind of big day for. And I'm not sure if Lisnagar Oscar, this is the big day for Lisnagar Oscar. He would have a big chance in the Potence final. But I just go back to his form from last season. Like even the run in the Albert Bartlett when he was 5th to Manila Indo. Like that form is rock solid. And off a mark of 140, he deserves that rating. So he does. He didn't take the fences at all behind Black Up and the first day he actually ran a check. So the horse I tipped in the earlier race won that race. But I just think off 140, Rebecca Curtis, unbelievably, hasn't had a runner in the last fortnight, which I thought was hard to believe. But her actual strike rate this season is, if I just get this right, she's had 15 winners from just 47 runners. So her strike rate is 32%. So hopefully Lisnagar Oscar can add to that.
Frank, who do you like here?
Yeah, this is a very interesting race. I thought there was plenty. Like with these, as David's already said, these races are tricky because you're trying to figure out which horses need to win to get in and which horses are just trying to qualify. Like you could definitely make a case for the likes of White Moon, Lisnagar Oscar. It's all guesswork. Silver Sheen's interesting as well. Robbie Power getting down to 10 stone 4. I don't think he does that too often. I thought 1 for the team should have won at Newbury behind Champions on Ice. He's only £2 higher. He'll be hard to beat. But I'm a big fan of Ted, and I don't think he's really achieved what he's capable of achieving yet. I thought he was a little bit unlucky last time at Haydock. Just lost momentum at a crucial time. Flashed home for 3rd, beaten 3 lengths. He's up £2. Tongue tie goes on for the first time. He's off a mark of 132, so he'll probably need to get £5 or £6 to be sure of getting into the final at Cheltenham itself. So I'm going to stick with him, even though his price is relatively short.
Frank likes Tedham. DJ likes Lisnagar Oscar. Who are you going to opt for, Keith?
One of my vices is backing the fixed brush or the old fixed brush form blind all the rest of the year. I think it always works out extremely well, and that would give me Stony Island and Tedham. But both those horses were really staying on strongly at the end of that day, and I think if the straight at Haydock's barely long enough for you, the straight at Warwick certainly will be. So you want one that's a horse that really, really stays well because it's one of the longer Pertemps qualifiers, and you want one that can get on the front using a bit of early speed. And that brought me down on Igor, who won a maiden or novice at Ascot and only really powered away from him after the last. Did it from the front that day, and then he ran on a grade 2 at Cheltenham, in which he again shaped like 3 miles. They didn't go as fast that day, and he was done a bit for pace as he started up the hill. That was a grade 2. This is now a handicap off 132, I think he is, and Sam Cohen can claim again. A prominent racer who's definitely going to see out the trip and is still unexposed, and at a price Igor, I think, is one to be on side with.
Igor's one of my tracker horses, so I'm definitely going to back him now that you have said that. Right, let's do Kempton's 3 TV races next.
So, does an each-way bet mean that my horse has to do part of the race in reverse?
Everyone loves a newbie. That's why Paddy Power Games are giving all new customers 60 free spins on daily jackpot games. New Paddy Power Games customers only. 1 per customer. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back. Let's look at Kempton's 3 races on ITV, 4 on Saturday. Starting with the 205, the Unibet Silviniaco Conti Chase. Not much said about this in the run-up to the race. It's over 2 miles, 4.5 furlongs. Obviously, we were hoping Altior would be here. He's not going to be. But it's still a race that features only 5 runners, but some very familiar names. Give us a spin through the betting, Frank.
Yeah, top notch is 4-5, Frodon 9-4, Puerto Rico 11-2, Barnes Fire 14s, and Keeper Hills 20s.
I'm fascinated to hear what you guys think, because I've got Frodon as the standout value here. I'm sure you will all oppose that, and I'll have to change my mind. But Frank, you go first. Who wins?
Yeah, again, it wasn't a race I was madly keen on. Frodon's been a bit disappointing in 2 runs this year at Aintree, obviously in a handicap where a lot of the fences in the straight were taken out, and then in the Betfair Chase. I just thought Top Notch won this race last year. He obviously won the Peterborough last time with Puerto Rico running him down late. I thought he won a bit more snug than the winning distance would suggest. I just think he's a little bit more solid. I just always be a little bit wary of backing Paul Nicholls' horses in January after they get their jabs, and yeah, I think Top Notch is probably a little bit safer, but
okay,
not much confidence.
Keith?
I feel bad slagging Top Notch off because he's such a likeable horse, but I think he maxes out about 160. He has a few performances of rated higher, but going back to the handicapping principle, you could have always rated a lot of those races lower. He tends to get rated high because he runs well when other horses don't. So for that reason, I thought it was very interesting what Paul Nicholls said during the week about Frodon. He came back, he'd had ulcers after the Betfair Chase. And, you look at his races in hindsight and you can say, yeah, okay, that is a horse that wasn't confused by missing out fences or who was outspeeded by stayers in the Betfair Chase. Yeah, maybe was a horse that wasn't quite right. So if they've treated him for the ulcers since, on ratings, he's got £7 on Top Notch and potentially the rest. And nothing else can win if he runs his race, really. So I thought, if I'm not going to go mad because it's going on the sort of the hearsay of the treatment doing its job. But there's only one horse you can back in this race, I think.
That's what I thought. You didn't really slag off Top Notch. I thought, oh my goodness, what's he going to do here? You can't slag off Top Notch. So you were very measured, Keith.
With these popular horses, if you say anything other than, oh my God, what a brilliant horse, you do sometimes get people saying, no, he doesn't owe anybody anything or anything like that. But, so I just think he's
my favourite one is take nothing away from the winner.
Well, you often can, exactly, yeah.
Okay, right. DJ, who's going to win this?
Oh, no, Bruce, no. Oh, this is a disaster. This really is. I think this is one of the best 4 to 5 shots I've seen in a long time. I really do. And I'm a bit worried. Like, I really respect you, Bruce, but I really, really respect Keith.
Oh, no, don't respect me. I'm clueless. But do respect Keith.
You're not at all. But now I'm a bit worried. Like, I went through this race and I can make a case, I think, for like Top Notch should be much shorter. Like, you go through, like, Puerto Rico is the third favourite, obviously 11-2, but Top Notch won so much snugger than the winning distance suggests last time. He really did. He's ran in 5 grade 2s in his life. He's won every single one of them. This is Top Notch's bread and butter. These are the races he wins. This is absolutely tailor-made for him. And I just can't see how he doesn't win this race. With Frodon, I have a theory. It potentially is a stupid theory, but I think he maxed out in the Ryanair. I think that was the day Frodon gave absolutely everything. It was one of the greatest days I've ever been in a race course, one of the greatest races I've seen. It was absolutely fantastic. And I think at Aintree and Haydock since, I think he's a little bit kind of deflated. And the last twice, I just thought he stopped too quick for my liking. That's not Frodon. Frodon is a real battler who gives you everything. Obviously, you can make a case for the Aintree race where there was a load of fences taken out, but just how quickly he stopped from where the second last was to the line really worried me. And then at Haydock, I know he was stepping up to 3 miles. He was running against Bristol the Mile and lost in translation. But again, he was beaten too early. I think Frodon has serious questions to answer. And I think Top Notch has no questions to answer because he just wins grade 2s. And I think at 4 to 5, I think I think he's as close to a good thing as you can get.
Okay, yeah, I can argue with it, but that makes perfect sense.
That's it. I was exactly the same as DJ until I heard that they treated him for stuff, and then it all made sense. Oh yeah, the horse, because he makes a point about the Ryanair being such a hard race, DJ, but the horse has done that 20 times in his career. He's absolutely given everything, and that's what he's a horse that is absolutely bomb-proof and takes his racing like he's some sort of tank. So to hear that there was something wrong with him was just what made me think. I mean, otherwise, if I hadn't heard that quote in the week, I would have been very close to what DJ said.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be, a fantastic duel between two of the gutsiest chasers we've seen in recent years. So I'm looking forward to that. The 240 at Kempton, the Unibet Lanzarote Handicap Hurdle, 2 miles 5 furlongs, and a pretty open look to this, Frank.
Yeah, we're 4 places here as well. Notre Paris 5-2, Burrows Edge 11-2, Loughborough Lad North of the Wall are both 7-1, Tycall 9-1, Burrows Park 10-1, and we're 12-1 bar.
Lead on Keith Melrose.
It's not very imaginative. I thought Notre Paris looked to be taking an awful lot of beating here. I don't think it's as strong a race, if you say, as the Classic, with a big handicap on the weekend, and the profile. You don't need much introduction. He was second at a point. 3 2-mile novice hurdles to either win, or if he doesn't win, get handicapped by accident because the horse needs further. Over 2.5 miles at Aintree on his handicap debut last time, he won quite well. They went really steadily. There was still all sorts of horses in contention 2 out, and in that circumstance, it's very rare you see Dickie Johnson sitting like he was, very confident. Won that race tidily, pulled right away from all bar one horse who's come out and run well since. And I just think it's a very, very solid horse in a race where nothing else really screamed at me that they're massively progressive.
David, are you going to go with the Jolly as well?
Yeah, I think this is a 2-horse race. I think only Notre Paris and Burrows Edge can win it. Burrows Edge has just been disappointing, hasn't fulfilled his potential, and he's coming back. It was a bit of a crash and fall last time at Ludlow in a race he probably might have won. But he's been beaten a couple of times off 1-3-2, so he doesn't have much in hand. But I think he'll run well, Burrows Edge. But just Notre Paris, rated 130. Like in 2 months' time, it wouldn't be the biggest shock if he was rated 145 or low 140s. I think he's got plenty to offer. He's a strong traveller, unexposed horse in possibly the weakest running of the Lanzarote I can remember.
Okay, and DJ, and Frank, who are you going to go for?
Yeah, Notre Paris is the right favourite and be very difficult to beat. Ollie Murphy's back in great form after having a bit of a quiet spell. He's 32% for the last 2 weeks. But there's one that I thought was very interesting at a little bit of a price. I think I'm going to chance him each way, and that's Tight Call for Tim Vaughan. Now, if you go back to his handicap debut last January at Wincanton, he was second to Tedham off a mark of 117, ran a cracking race. Then he went to Ascot on his next start the following month, and he was fourth when he fell at the last. Now, that form, when you look at it, Rio Conti won. He was fourth in his next start in the Carl Cup of £5 higher. Ballyandy was third that day. He was placed in the Carl Cup as well, only beaten half a length. Malaya came fourth. That won the Imperial Cup at its next start. The form was relatively strong. And then he had a couple of lesser runs in novice hurdles, getting beaten up in Musgrave when really short, and then winning really short at Fondwell. But on his reappearance at Mark Raisin, he was 5-1. He was fourth of 6, beaten 18 lengths. Looked quite disappointing on the main of it. But when you actually look at the form of the race, it was actually very strong for the track. The winner on his fake followed up at Kempton the next time is now rated a stone higher. The second, Scandiburg, has won at both Aintree and Cheltenham and is £16 higher. And even the third, Any Time Will Do, was fifth, beating only 4 lengths in a really competitive Newbury handicap behind Champers of Ice. Now, Ty Call's been dropped £3 for that day. He's only £2 higher than when he was second to Tedham. And of course, Tedham is a horse that I think he's only rated, I think he's at £7 or £8 higher than that Wincanton run, but I think he'll rate a fair bit higher before the season's out. Now, Ty Call's also had a wind up and wears a tongue tie for the first time. And I just thought of the prices and looking how well a lot of the form he's running has worked out, I thought he was worth chancing each way.
Okay, and the 3:15 at Kempton, the Tri-Unibet new Uniboosts handicap chase is over 3 miles. Take it away, Frank.
Yeah, on the blind sides, 5-2, Touch Kick 3-1, Walled 4-1, War Sound, Finger on the Switch, both 6-1, and we're 8-1 bar.
David, who will cross the line in front?
I'm going to chance War Sound. He's one of these horses that I just like, but I shouldn't because he just lets you down every time. But I just thought there was more spark last time at Ascot than I've seen for quite a while from War Sound. I think Tom O'Brien gets a decent tune out of him. And actually, sorry, Micheál Nolan rode him last time. But I thought at Ascot, he looked the type of horse that was crying out for 3 miles, even though he's never ever ran over the trip. And he stayed on again up the rail after creeping into contention in what was a really strongly run race. He's rated 135. If you told me this time 12 months ago that Warsound would only be rated 135 after winning so impressively at Aintree, you'd laugh. I just wonder, will 3 miles allow him to get into his comfort zone? And I'm going to chance him one more time. But this is it now. We're finished if he doesn't win this.
Okay, Frank, who are you going to go?
I think it's very difficult to look beyond on the blind side. He ran a grand race the last day at Ascot over 2.5 behind Riders in the Storm. I really like Riders in the Storm. I think he's a massive chance in the Ryanair, and I think that form is actually going to work out quite well. He was well clear of Paloma Blue in third. Even he disappointed in the Ladbroke Trophy, but I'm not sure if he goes left-handed. He's better right-handed, I think. If you go back to even his first start of the season in 3-mile handicap chase at Ascot, he was fourth, beaten 10 lengths off a mark of 149. That race has worked out reasonably well. Vindication 1 hasn't been out since, but Regal Encore was second, has come back and won. And a couple behind, Acting Last was behind. That was second to Regal Encore. So form's worked out reasonably well. And even if you go back to last season, last January, he gave Talk Is Cheap a bit of a beating here in a novice chase over this course and distance. I just think off 147. I think he's scoped to be a bit better than that, particularly when these are his conditions.
I forgot, you told me ages ago to back Riders on the Storm for the Ryanair. He's only 12 to 1 now. I've missed the boat, haven't I? Or should I still get involved?
I think it's a fair enough price. Like, as in, a Ryanair is a kind of race where it's not impossible for handicappers to make the jump up. Obviously, Frodon and ASO being an example last season. He just seems to be transformed for the switch to Nigel Twiston-Davis. Like, he was very impressive at Aintree. That form's been franked by Old Grangewood, and I thought he was electric at Ascot. And yeah,
okay.
I think he's a massive player.
I shall get on. Keith, who's going to win this one?
I didn't like many of these. My patience has run out with on the blind side, even though I like that Ascot form, as Frank referred to. I've got my finger on the switch. His last 2 runs, he's been second to Big Iron on his hip, who's since won the Borders National. And then Copperhead at Wincanton last time, Copperhead will be rated £20 higher than the mark he ran off that day by the end of the season, if he isn't already, because he's won a competitive race since. And this horse would have been a more clear second than he was in the end, had they gone a little bit more of a gallop at Wincanton, I think. So soft round hero suit. As I say, he's gone up a grand total of £3 for a couple of really good seconds. And in a race where I don't like an awful lot, I think he really stands out as a decent bet.
Excellent. Right, that's the TV action. Let's see what the boys fancy elsewhere. We've obviously got the rest of the Kempton and Warwick cards. They're also racing at Lingfield, Wetherby, Chelmsford, and over in Ireland, Fairyhouse. DJ, lead on. What have you got for us?
I have 3 for Fairyhouse, and I'll be exceptionally quick. In the 210, it's the Dam and Joan Moore Memorial Chase, kind of a traditionally real hot handicap. And the one I like here is Articulum for Terence O'Brien and Philip Enright. Just thought all season this was the race for Articulum. Now, fell in the Tim Duggan at Limerick, which was very, very unlike Articulum because he's a brilliant jumper. Just pitched on land and didn't make a mistake at the fence. He's running off a mark of 148. And I just thought he had the potential to make it into graded company this year. 2 mile 1 around Fairyhouse with a bit of cut in the ground is perfect for Articulum. And he should be a decent price. That's in the 210. In the 245, it's a beginner's chase. I'm going to give Valju another chance because I don't think things have gone right from over fences so far. He fell early at Leopardstown last time in the race that Mellon won. The time before, he was second to Dunvegan, but it was an absolute bonkers race where the 3 on front went almost a furlong clear, and he stayed on into second. I think he's a better horse over fences than we've seen so far, and hopefully that fall last time hasn't affected his confidence. So that's Valju in the 245 at Fairyhouse. And just one more, in the 320 at Fairyhouse, Tony Martin really needs to get going. He needs a winner to get him back on track, and I think at the Acorn, in the 320, rated 116. I think he's better than that. I think he's the type of horse that could run off a sequence. When he wins 1, I could see him winning 3. And I think the start of that sequence could be in the 320 at Fairyhouse at the Acorn.
I'm on OxfordEnglishDictionary.com looking up exceptionally. It says only in unusual circumstances or unusually. Do you think you're exceptionally quick there, DJ?
For me, yeah, I do.
Probably were, actually. Frank, are you going to be exceptionally quick? How many have you got?
I've got 4.
4. Go on then.
Yeah, I think it's 3 or 4. Wetherby 140. Prince Llewellyn I thought was a bit interesting. He's had a wind up, wearing a tongue tie for the first time. Bryan Hughes booked. If you go back to his bumper form, he won a bumper here last season, beating Big Bad Bear. That horse rated 130 over hurdles. He was second in the Newbury Sales bumper behind Getting the Queue on Noel Feely's last ride, if you remember that race. He was a bit disappointing on his hurdles debut, when 5th of 5 at Ascot. That was a relatively warm race. This looks easier. Penny Mallow carries a penalty, and Venetia Williams has gone a bit quiet now, and the Top Doe win for John Joe O'Neill carries a penalty as well. I'd be very hopeful Prince Llewellyn can get off the mark in that race. It Kempton at 3:45. Never Adapt was a massive eye-catcher at Cheltenham last time. He's only had 3 runs ever. Won a 3-year-old hurdle in France in March 2018. Had his first start in the Grade 2 at Cheltenham last November 2018. Was third, beaten 3/4 lengths by Kel Destan. Wasn't seen again till that handicap hurdle at Cheltenham. Finished third, beaten 1 3/4 lengths of 128. It's only gone up £2. I think she might be able to get off the mark over hurdles. Wolf Prince runs in the 12:25 at Fairyhouse. Hope to see that win easily, as I'm a massive fan of Aspire Tower and think that's the one to beat in the Triumph at the moment as things stand. So hoping to see a big run from Wolf Prince. And my fourth one's actually my nap, so I'll leave that be.
Okay, leave that. Keith, what have you got for us?
I've got 2, and the 1:15 Warwick. I think Rough Night will win that. It's not the strongest race of its type. The time before he won here last time, he had run very, very well in second. I think he's a progressive horse and will probably win that race. And Weatherby, the 2:15, I think it's a big race. Capp was a horse at Southwell that won very, very well there. Everything's come out of that race that backs up the visual impressions. And then he ran at Taunton next time, a totally different race, won by Locker Room Talk. He didn't come back, obviously, Locker Room Talk. He's done the same since at Sandown. And Capp just jumped left all the way round. Back going left-handed this time. I think Testing Ground will suit him, and if he gets given his head by Gavin Sheehan in a race that has a lot of respectable horses, but none as progressive as Capp Poley, I think he's a really good price.
Smashing. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's get the naps.
This will not be beaten.
Keith Melrose.
I think I'm going to go for Capp Poley, actually, that I've just talked about. Yeah, I mean, on the telly it'd be finger on the switch, but Capp Poley's probably the main nap.
And he's in what, the 150?
The 2:15 at Weatherby.
2:15 at Weatherby. David?
Just because it's my first time on the podcast in 2020, and I want to go through the whole year not having a losing nap, I'm going to go.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to go for top notch in the 2:05 at Kempton, because that is as good a 4 to 5 shot as you're going to find.
You think you can go a whole year without giving up a losing nap, yeah?
I do at the moment, but it'll probably change next week.
Well, what might happen is top notch will win, and then we'll just stand you down for the rest of the year. But we don't want that, DJ, because we love having you on. We love having you on, Frank. What have you got for us?
Yeah, Kempton 130, Sammy Bill. This horse only had 3 runs over hurdles, was sent straight over fences, made its debut over fences over this course and distance, hacking up off a mark of 110. Followed up at Aintree off a stone higher, winning very easily again. There's a bit of substance to the form. The 7th that day, Moona Gold is just touched off in a relatively decent Newbury handicap next time. He's up another £11, but Oliver Sherwood's in decent form with 4 winners of his last 17 runners. And I think this horse is going places over fences, and I think he'll win again tomorrow.
Right, let's try and sort you out with some Sunday winners next.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's the Racing Post Weekend Postcast. Bruce Millington, Keith Melrose, David Jennings and Paddy Powers. Frank Hickey. Looking ahead to Sunday, 2 really good races at Punchestown, and we've got Keith's bet of the weekend at Kelso. We'll start with Punchestown. The 105 is the Killiney Novices Chase at Grade 3 over 2.5 miles. Have we got a show yet, Frank?
We don't have betting on that. We've nothing from Sunday just yet, Bruce.
Okay, well, tell us who's going to win the 105, even though we don't have prices yet.
Yeah, well, I thought that City Islands jumping was appalling on his debut at Leopardstown. I'd be very worried about him, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him back over hurdles before the season's out.
What price is he going to be, though, Frank? Because, I mean, obviously he was so impressive in the Ballymore last year. Admittedly, the 2 runs since have been, comparatively dire, but, what do you make of him in terms of pricing him up?
I just didn't like the way he jumped the last day. Now, maybe he had excuses or something, I don't know, but maybe the trip was too short. But I'd be keen to take him on anyway until you see him jump a bit better. Like, the trip might be a small bit on the short side for carefully selected, but he's probably the most solid option in this race. He'll definitely be running over at least 3, if not further, before the season's out, but he's probably the one to beat. In a race that, again, I wasn't overly mad in the race.
Keith, what do we make of City Island?
Yeah, I'd watched his chasing debut back just before we came on, and he didn't look like a horse who immediately had the heart for it. Didn't think his jumping had that much dash about it. So yeah, I'd be for all the mistakes, or the actual mistakes, maybe be a bit unlucky in a sense. The way he went about the general jumping. I mean, it might have been the fact that it was a bit of a wacky race, wasn't it? Loads fell round him, and he might have got a bit spooked by that. But barring quite a fruity excuse, I wouldn't be excusing him here. And I actually think Carefully Selected is going to be in the Spring Grade 1s. I watched his debut over fences again. You know, he was the best horse in the Champion Bumper in 2018. He only had 2 runs over hurdles last season, and the second one he was third in a Grade 1. And his chasing debut, he basically, his back legs just went after he landed at the second last, and he still got up to win. And they didn't have to go for the stick until after the last, and he won comfortably. I'm desperate to try and find another winner of the RSA because I'm still not that convinced about Champ, and Carefully Selected is on my shortlist for that. I think he's going to be a Grade 1 class, probably 3 mile, as Frank says, novice chaser.
Okay, it's an interesting race, DJ, isn't it? Will you be there to cover it?
Yeah. Like Keith, I was disappointed with City Island, and Martin Brazel is as shrewd a customer as you will get. And I spoke to him constantly in the lead up to Christmas, and like the vibes were that this horse had schooled really well, and a couple of different people had said how well he'd schooled. So to see him go down to the first fence and do what he did and look like he'd never seen a fence before was really worrying. I think Carefully Selected is a monster. I think he could potentially be top class. I think in a year or 2 years' time we could be talking about him as a Gold Cup contender. I'm not sure, Keith, you'll probably know this. Is there a criteria where you have to run a certain amount of times to get into the National Hunt Chase, which is now the 3 mile sixer, we'll call it? Is there a new rule?
I don't know of any. It's more on the riders, the restrictions, I believe, in that race than the horses.
Well, I think Patrick Mullins has had his eye on Carefully Selected for the National Hunt Chase since last April when the horse ran in Punchestown. To me, he just looks tailor-made for it. He's a galloper. He's a strong dour stayer. I think he'll get away with it over 2 mile 4 because I think he's got, like, I think for City Island it's a case of clear round, let's see what we have. Whereas I think with Carefully Selected, they're thinking this could be a Cheltenham winner. So I think this could be the day for Carefully Selected.
Yeah, obviously I've much agreed with that. It looks like the 4 miler might be, or the X 4 miler might be a better race than the RSA at this rate.
The 3 mile 6
the 3 miler 6, or I don't know what we're going to call that in the end. At least we know what decade to call this now. At least
exactly. I know. For the last 20 years, we've lived in decades with no name, haven't we?
Because the other chaser I really like at the moment is Danny Whizbang, and I think he should go for the 4 miler because I think the RSA might just be that little bit quick for him. So you might end up with 2 of the chasers I most like out of the entire division. Novices anyway, going for the 4 miler.
Yeah, it depends, doesn't it? I mean, Champ's still got a lot to prove, hasn't he? I mean, I agree with you. I wouldn't be touching him with a barge pole just now.
I love him.
They had to work.
Yeah, Champ.
Yeah, I think
it wasn't just when he came down though, DJ. I thought there's some really scrappy jumps in that round.
Why are they working so hard to make him a 3 mile chaser? Because he does everything. I mean, they had to work really hard to get him to settle over 3 miles over hurdles. And I'm sort of with DJ on how he jumped on New Year's Day. I didn't think it was as bad as before. He was worse at Newbury the twice he ran at Newbury. And he definitely goes left, and he definitely takes a chance. Which, you know, I mean, the RSA, they might go slow enough for him, and he is a really, really good horse. And I just don't know if they run him in the right races.
The engine's there, isn't it? Just Absolutely. Not sure about those pesky jumps. Okay, let's look at the 240 at Punchestown. It's the Sky Bet Moscow Flyer Novice Hurdle, a Grade 2. There's only 6 runners. No betting as yet, so I'll read you out the 6 runners. Anything Will Do, Andy Dufresne, that's how you say it, Maddie, Meticulous, Shanroe, Captain Guinness, and the Little Yank. Keith, have you got a strong opinion on this one?
Not particularly. I mean, Maddie wasn't born when the Shawshank Redemption came out.
No, I know. That was cruel. I apologise, Maddie.
Yeah, come on. I thought there was just an element of bubble burst there last time. I didn't see any excuse for him particularly. So I would be looking to get against him potentially. I was faintly interested in Meticulous. I thought his bumper form was really good. He's probably more of a 2 miler than most of these. And I'm not particularly sure it's Joseph Bryan's style to start one in a race this good. So it was quite an interesting runner. I'm not sitting here telling you that I want to back that horse because I haven't got prices and I'm not massively au fait with Irish Novice Hurdle form. But it was a runner that caught my eye.
Okay. I wasn't alive for It's a Wonderful Life, but I can pronounce it.
Well, I know there's that. It does make, when you can actually, it's something when you lived through something.
Yeah,
it's you possibly overstate how much of a cultural.
All right. You're making me feel very, very guilty now. I'm going to have to buy Maddie some.
I was only 7 to make you feel worse.
That's ridiculous. DJ, who wins this?
Oh, this, Andy Dufresne wins. And the thing about Andy Dufresne is they were so deflated when he was beaten at Navan. They were devastated. They could not understand how he was beaten. And yet, he still posted an RPR, according to us, of 146. The time before, when he won his maiden hurdle, he beat a horse called Cobbler's Way, who won the good maiden hurdle that the big getaway was in at Leopardstown. A repeat of the performance last time, which they were disgusted with, will be more than good enough to win this race. And I'm just disgusted after he was beaten at Navan that I didn't back him for the Supreme, because to me, he jumped so slickly, so quickly. He got away from his hurdle so quick that I said they have to go back to 2 miles. I said it, I did the analysis that day, and I said that he has to go back to 2 miles. I think after this race on Sunday, he'll be single figures for the Supreme.
Oh.
He hit the last 3, didn't he?
I didn't see it.
Did he not hit the last 3 at Navan?
No.
Certainly hit 3 out. And I don't think he was that tidy 2 out at the last.
He might have made one mistake, but no, I thought he was really slick.
He definitely hit 3 out, and then it was just, I didn't think he was that tidy 2 out at the last either.
We shall see. Frank, you're looking for an alternative to the favourite in the Supreme, aren't you? Is Andy Dufresne that one?
He could be. I thought he was going to be a superstar, and I was a bit deflated myself after Navan. Now, it could just be good form. Latest exhibition might be underrated, but yeah, I think he's a small bit to prove. Captain Guinness was very impressive on his hurdles debut at Navan as well. I think he would have beaten Black Bow even if Black Bow had stood up. He was a big price that day, but he definitely left an impression. But yeah, again, I don't know what the betting is. I assume Andy Dufresne will be favourite and be relatively short. I wouldn't be dying to row in behind him, but I'm not sure you have too much to take him on with at the same time.
Okay, they are also racing at Kelso and Southall. DJ, what have you got apart from the 2 races on Sunday that we've already touched upon?
Just one, Bruce. In the 3:15 at Punchestown, it's a handicap hurdle. I like Bag on Valach for Arthur Moore. Was second in a maiden hurdle at Cork last time, the donkey years. Was really well back, went off 6-4 favourite. It's Arthur Moore. Unfortunately, the heady days when he used to absolutely dominate Irish racing are long gone, but he still gets a good horse every so often, and I think this Fog on Valach is only rated 107, and I think he's much better than that. 3:15.
What does Fag on Ballock mean?
I should know that because I did Irish for 15 years in school, but I don't.
Okay. Frank, what have you got for us?
Just one I thought was a small bit interesting, the 12:50 at Kelso. Mr. Magoo travelled quite well in a decent race at Kempton on St. Stephen's Day or Boxing Day in the UK. He actually was travelling really well into the straight, got headed then, was only beaten 11 lengths in 4th. That was a very strong race. I think it's stronger than the race he's running in here. He's running off a mark of 119. He's actually been dropped 2 pounds for that Kempton run. It doesn't look a strong race. I thought he'd be a bit interesting with Bryan Hughes on board for Don McCain.
This is the race you fancy one in, isn't it?
Yeah, because Mr. Magoo's a bit soft.
Did you see, lads, what happened there, by the way? While Frank was talking, Keith mouthed to me, who was it? Because he didn't catch it. And so to mime it, I held a pair of glasses up.
I am old enough to get that reference. Yeah. Just about.
Okay, so if it's not Mr. Magoo, who is it?
I think Sandy Thompson's going to have it right off. I think Alan Momo's going to win this. He's got him before in Greatrex, and with Greatrex, Alan Momo looked like a really good horse at one point. He got to 140 and was still going the right way. And then something happened. I don't know what. It looks like physical issues came along or something like that, because he was a bit of a horse that went to nothing a lot of the time. He's down to 110 now. Made his debut for Thompson quite recently over hurdles. Held right up in that race. Finished 5th, staying on. It was very much a getting him back sort of run. It was his first run for 18 months or so, and he just absolutely chucked it off that mark on anything like his best form. In fact, on his form on his second last run for Greatrex, he's well enough off that sort of mark. Thompson's taken him back over fences to his home course at Kelso. Today is the day that he'll be fit and ready to run his race, and he could pick them up and carry them off that if he's back to within even a stone of what he was.
Oh, interesting. Mr. Magoo and Alu Momo there. Frank and Keith going head to head. I'm going to put up a shout for one. Big River, who I like very much indeed. He might get tailed off. It's not even 3 miles in the 3 o'clock at Kelso. Hopefully Big River could come storming through 8 runners.
We talked about that, didn't we? It's the first time in a long time he's not been running in a really hot race.
Yeah. I think he might just Sunday might be his day. Okay, right then, chaps. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, DJ. Thank you, Frank. What are the weekend plans, Keith? Grafting?
Mostly, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What have you got in the paper for us on Saturday?
I'm writing the paper on Saturday. I'm doing 5 previews.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I'm previewing basically a lot of the races we've talked about here. Probably going into a bit more detail with the analysis instead of just trying to say some bon mots for the cameras. So yeah, I'll be doing a lot of that, and you'll see a lot of me in tomorrow's paper.
Good. We can't get enough of Keith. DJ, we can't get enough of you. What are you going to be doing for us this weekend?
An 18th century battle cry, meaning cleared away. That's what Fag on Valach means.
Oh, okay, cool. Excellent.
Yeah, check that out. So
Thank you for
I'm not too disheartened that I didn't know it now. I'm working, and I actually have to paint a wall, and I'm really bad at that stuff. So I'm not looking forward to it.
You've got to paint a wall, interior or exterior?
Yeah, we're living in a little cottage at the minute, and there's a little bit of damp that I had to put on the wall, and I have that on, but you have to let it dry for 24 hours, and then you have to paint over it. But I'm not neat at all with that kind of stuff, and Aoife goes mad because she'll see little dots of paint on the floor and everything. So no matter what happens, it's a no-win situation, because no matter what I do, it will be wrong.
And Matt, on your wages, mate, you should be able to afford a painter and decorator, DJ. I'm amazed.
Can't be married that long if no-win situations are still novel.
Oh yeah. No. I don't fancy your chances there. I really don't. Now, Frank, what have you got for us? Are you going to be in the bosom of the family still, bringing up the little one, or are you grafting, or have you got some pleasure this weekend?
I'm working Saturday and I'm off Sunday. So I think Sunday we're going visiting a few friends. Nothing too hectic. We're still trying to get him into a routine. So Jill's anxious not to get overface him with too much. So
No.
Yeah.
What did you call it?
Oliver.
We're in the name-finding phase at the minute. It's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Do you know what you're having yet, or are you allowed to tell us, DJ?
Yeah, a baby.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Sorry,
I wouldn't have thought it.
That's a real Del Boy one. No, we don't know. Apparently, because of her shape, it's a girl, which makes no sense to me. And if it's a girl, top of the list at the moment is Lucy, but I want Charlotte. So.
Okay. And what about boy? Who's jolly if it's a boy?
At the moment, either Cormac or William.
Okay.
Not neither.
All right, fair enough. Jolly good. Right then, we are back on, or Maddie is back on Monday rather, taking you through the weekend and looking ahead to next weekend. We've got the Clarence House, which could be a really, really hot race at Ascot. We've got football on Thursday, and then we're back next Friday for another Racing Post weekend postcast. Hope you can join us for that.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. Getting a road named after you in your hometown, special. Winning the daily jackpot on Paddy Power games, not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. 18+, begambleaware.org.